without further ado, why don't we welcome up the team from the Bitcoin Beach wallet. Everybody give them a round of applause.
It's actually the team from Bitcoin Beach, not the Bitcoin Beach wallet. So another round of applause for the team from Bitcoin Beach, Zonte. That said, I work at Galloy, the team that built the Bitcoin Beach wallet. So we're family, so we're up here together. But thank you all for being here.
I would love to be a programmer, but I don't think I can do it.
Not a programmer either, so come on, let's go. My name is Andrew. Like I said, I work at Galloy. We're, Bitcoin Beach wallet is now Blink, and I'm just humbled to be here. When I joined Galloy, as the company was the creator of Bitcoin Beach wallet, my first assignment that I assigned myself was to just understand the project. And I spent 30 or so hours listening to all the talks on what Bitcoin did and Tales from the Crypt dating back to 2019, 2020, and have become a student of Bitcoin Beach and the other circular economies that have popped up around the world. And so being here for the third time and coming on a yearly basis to kind of check in with you guys is something that's it's just amazing to see the progress. So we're going to have a little panel. I want to talk, generally speaking, about past, present, and then what's next in the future. So I'll pass it along. Maybe quick names and introductions. Most people know who you guys are, but we have new Bitcoiners every day. So I'll pass it, Mike, and go across.
Yeah, I'm Mike Peterson, one of the founders of Bitcoin Beach.
I'm Martínez or Chimbera from El Zonte.
I am Ismael. Also, I live in El Zonte.
Great. So I'd like to start by doing a maybe 60-second recap of the original. What was the date? I'm trying to think back. When did this project start? So give us a little bit of foundation. And what was the original idea or challenge that you guys started from?
So the actual Bitcoin component started in May. The idea came about in May of 2019. We already had existing projects happening in El Zonte, specifically targeted to the youth and making sure that they saw a better path forward than joining the gangs or trying to leave the country. And so that was original goal, and we were introduced to somebody that wanted to donate in Bitcoin and challenged us to come up with a way to make sure that it circulated in the community, that it wasn't just converted to fiat. And so that idea came in May, kind of percolated throughout the summer, and then we rolled out the first programs in September of 2019.
Yeah, there's a tweet. Go find it. It says, the El Zonte River cleanup crew is buying pupusas with Bitcoin at Mama Rosa's Pupuseria. It's to me, it's like the Hal Finney, running Bitcoin, but for Bitcoin circular economy. So go find it. There's 64 likes and 7 retweets. It's hidden in history. Roman, what was your first exposure to the project, and what did you think the first time that someone's hey, have you heard of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I always say like Mike mentioned it, we already were working for the youngs for the kids from our community, but we were happy, but it's always looked like if it felt like if we were missing something, we were doing changes, the dream that we have, how we can make that the kids here can change their mindset, how we can make that they can have more opportunities. But we were doing all these projects, that we already were doing, but it was now it makes sense, but in the beginning when we started using Bitcoin, it was wow, it's really amazing, how something that it's open source, it's something that it doesn't exist. We didn't know if this is gonna work, but we see the the benefit of this. And something that I always say, like, is I think, like, Max Kaiser used to say, like, you don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changed you, you know? From the first time when you touch Bitcoin, it's like you make, like, that connections, you know? And you see, we didn't thinking we're going to be in Bitcoin country today, right? But we feel it that that was the tool that we were missing in the whole project, you know? And it changed my life, and it changed the life of everyone involved.
Just to follow up on that, like if you know anything about the nonprofit world or economic development around the world, it has a very dismal record of bringing real change. You know, look at places like Haiti, I think has the highest per capita, you know, of nonprofit workers living in the country of anywhere in the world, the most money going in, and the poverty just continues to persist. And so we've seen throughout the world that people with good intentions come in and try to bring opportunity and change, but there always seems like there's something missing. And so we sense that to an extent in our early work in the community. There was some great things happening. You know, see kids come along, but then they'd wind up joining the gang. And there was kind of this fiat mindset. And when we started using Bitcoin, we underestimated the impact just the fact that we were doing things in Bitcoin would have. And it really was like the secret sauce that made economic development and nonprofit work like actually work for the people.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you know, Bitcoin Twitter is all up in arms saying you're never going to buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin, right? I remember you saying that in a couple of the pods, like, you know, Mike's like, if I knew better, I wouldn't have set off on the project in the first place, but we said, let's try it out. And so, I mean, you know, thinking about the ripples into the future of that. Ismael, I'd love to hear about your first experience, like early days of, you know, was it Roman or Jorge saying like, hey, Bitcoin, like, what did you think, you know, when they introduced it?
Okay, if I can introduce myself to you guys, that would be as a result of what these guys have done already. I feel proud to be part of this change in this country. All I can say when I first met Bitcoin, it was, first of all, because I didn't hear about it before, and it was just like, this is a new technology that allows you to send money like instantly, but we were not able to understand it. So it was kind of like, I don't think I want Bitcoin right now, right? Because we were just get used to US dollars. So I remember Jorge and Roman were like trying to explain me how it works, and we were doing some transactions. And after that, I guess we went to eat some pupusas because Mama Rosa was already accepting Bitcoin. And it was crazy to see like you can send money and then are gonna give you the pupusas and you can eat it, and that's how it works. And it's been a big journey from there.
And you didn't have, most people in El Zonte at the time did not have digital payments, right? So I think one thing to be clear is many people approach Bitcoin and say, oh, it's an investment. Instead of putting money into real estate and stocks and this, I'm going to move money into Bitcoin and wait for a number go up. But this wasn't maybe the case that you saw at the beginning.
No, and when Ismael is talking about that, Ismael was probably 16 years old. How old are you now?
I'm 21 years old.
Yeah. So, and plus, we were doing everything in on-chain because Lightning was not really a big thing. But Bitcoin was around $5,000. So the transactions back in the days were like 20 cents, you know, and that was good. But it's crazy because we were like just kind of like kids creating these groups and telling people like, hey, download this app and you will receive money, you know, but what can I do with that? And like, well, you can go to Mama Rosa and buy pupusas, or you can buy like beans, rice, you know, and okay, you know, I'm gonna do it, it's free, I can do it, right? But 90% of the people, back to your question, 90% of the people in El Zonte were unbanked. And I think that was a powerful example how Bitcoin is the money of the poor people, how Bitcoin can be inclusive, you know. And that 90% of the people never, before Bitcoin, never experienced like nothing, you know, nothing that probably you guys do all the time, you know, get your credit cards and grab a coffee and pay digitally, you know. But there is a lot of people around the world, billions of people that don't have that luxury, you know. And we were happy to see it in the first hands, right? In the first place in El Zonte, how people using Bitcoin for the first time to buy something, immediately their mindset started changing, you know? Or I remember some of the families that they get jobs to working and they start to getting paid in Bitcoin. Families that always say, I cannot save money. My salary is not enough to save money. But now getting their salaries in Bitcoin, they convert into dollars what they need to spend in the week, but they start to living in Bitcoin what they don't need, you know? It may be small amounts because like a normal family in El Salvador, what they can save is small, but that was, I think, one of the biggest change that we start to see in.
Well, I think once you start spending in Bitcoin, and this is why, you know, it's a big debate in the Bitcoin world of like, should you actually spend your Bitcoin? And to me, it's silly because why are you keeping any fiat? Why aren't you all in Bitcoin to begin with? But when you start spending in Bitcoin, you really question each purchase because you know longer term, there's a huge opportunity cost to it. So you're much better off living on a Bitcoin standard. And another thing, a lot of people don't realize how revolutionary this was for people to have access to a financial network for the first time, because in America or in Europe, it's very easy. There's PayPal, there's Venmo, there's all these different opportunities. But because of KYC, AML policies, most countries in the world do not have access to these networks because it's just not worth it to the companies to come in and all the compliance costs. And that's one thing people don't understand about the problem with the unbanked population. It'll never be solved by the traditional banking network because it is too expensive for banks to do the KYC and AML procedures that they're required of them. The cost of that is more than they'll ever make off low-income people. So the only way to solve this is by using an open network that doesn't require any of that, that nobody can, there's no intermediaries. That is the only way that we will bring billions of people into the global financial system, and that's what we saw in El Zonte.
Yeah, I'd like to fork the conversation. There's like two things that went on, I think. Once, okay, Bitcoin Beach, you guys did years of work before anybody ever heard of El Zonte. And then La Ley Bitcoin, you know, got on stage at Bitcoin conference, and the entire world focused on El Zonte. I think that with that 2021, and you know, between the summer and then fall when the law went into effect, and then at the first Adopting Bitcoin conference, you know, you guys were on a different type of journey. You guys set off on, okay, well, you know, Bitcoin is going, you know, 69K, 15K, you know, over the past couple years. And so you've been on this journey of growth and evolution. Meanwhile, you know, you set off a big bang in which, you know, today we have, I think there's 10 circular economy projects inspired by what Bitcoin Beach did that are speaking here. So like there's a bunch on this stage, there's a bunch on other stages. So we shared at Blink BTC on Twitter, like a list of those. So if you're curious about like the impact and what's happening in these, you know, when people realized what was happening on El Zonte and how many people are in this exact same situation without bank accounts, it's really spawned a lot. But I want to spend a few minutes talking about like your journey after, you know, 2021, you know, all the hype, all the attention, growth, like, you know, what has it been like over the past 2 years? You know, do people start, they stop, they get tired, you know, like, you know, we're all Bitcoiners, but maybe all the merchants that you guys have been working with aren't. Like, I'm curious what it's really been like.
It was, after the law was announced, it was crazy. There was this huge influx of press into El Zonte, and unfortunately it became a political issue too. The people that were against the president tried to, thought that this would be a wedge issue that they could use against him, which is, it's funny because I think now they're starting to realize how wrong they were in that ultimately he'll have the last laugh, and because the Bitcoin adoption has transformed this country so like top to bottom. But
Or bottom to top.
bottom of the top, yes. So we are, but I remember during that time, like we just talked as a group, we need to maintain the focus on what we're doing in the community. It's important, so if the press comes in, we want to let them know what's happening here. We want to try to inspire people to replicate this around the world, but we also want to remember it's about the community. For us, Bitcoin adoption is never the end goal. The end goal is the empowerment and the young people reaching their potential and seeing the community transform. So for us, Bitcoin is a tool, and we always try to remind people that it's still just money. It's the world's best money, but it's just money. It is not the end-all, be-all. And so we see it as a tool that can transform, and that's what we really see. It's the stories like we have in front of us here, that's what it's all about.
Let's hear your story, Ismael. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey over the past couple of years while this is all going on?
Okay, well, I am a guy who grew up at El Zonte. Maybe if I go back on time, maybe if I ask my younger me, he wouldn't have a dream. He wouldn't know what would he do in the future, because we haven't been able to have these opportunities that Bitcoin is allowing these companies and all these people is bringing to El Salvador. And I guess all our culture have been always to be living the day. Once you get paid, you're gonna spend it, and you never save money because nobody taught you, and maybe you don't know about financial inclusion, right? So it's been just crazy. I remember some friends of mine, they used to tell me like, hey, I had $10 and I got 12 right now. And it's just like interesting how it was working and how they were like getting into Bitcoin. And it was a process, of course. It was kind of hard to convince some people, because some of them already thought it was the evil, right? Because they have a lot of like the Bible things. But little by little, we were just like trying to explain them how it works and how you can get advantage of that, right? And I guess it has changed my life, because after Bitcoin, I started to think about my future, about money, because as I told you, we never even know why we are using dollars, for example. They never teach us in the school. That's not a topic a teacher is gonna speak about, right? And after Bitcoin, I started to say, okay, my future is in my hands right now. Of course, I need to get some tools, but this is one of them.
But can you explain us, what are you doing now? Like, how's your life? Where you were like 2 weeks ago?
Okay, so I also started to learn English. That's why I am here too, maybe. I started to learn English. I started to be, because I used to surf, I still surf, and I'm a surf instructor. So I used to work with American or people around the world, and I was changing my mindset of how that works and how I can actually go out and look for opportunities or see what can I do with my life and improve it in my family's life too. So this couple of years ago, I went to USA. I've been there for 4 months, and I don't know, it's something I can't believe I did to be in my age of 21. And that's not something you can just do. That's something these things is bringing to El Zonte or to El Salvador, to have people like me thinking now in a big way.
And what you were doing there? Well, what did you do there?
I have also been working as a professional lifeguard. I am certified. I basically try to do everything. As I told you, this is just one more tool that you can use and take advantage of it.
So one thing a lot of you probably don't know is the first professional lifeguard force in El Salvador came out of El Zonte, came out of the Bitcoin Beach program and Hope House. Every year there'd be between 200 and 300 people that would drown in El Salvador. And for a small country, it's a huge number. And we would see it in El Zonte. A lot of times the local surfers would be rescuing, people that got in over their head. And so we had this dream of, hey, let's provide training, the conditioning and employment to these, great young people in the community, but also literally save lives. And so out of this came this lifeguard program. We started with 5 beaches. There's literally hundreds of lives that were saved over a couple of years. And then the government saw what was happening and how beneficial this was for the local people, how beneficial it was for the country's image, for tourism, and they actually now rolled out a professional lifeguard force across the country. So Ishmael was part of that. He was one of the first that made that happen. And so we like to say Bitcoin literally has saved hundreds of lives here in El Salvador.
I'm going to make one question for Ismael, sorry.
Let's go.
But if you were in the USA already, why you don't stay there?
Okay, that's a very good point. I mean, that was the first time I went there, but I actually have realized that I wanna live my life here. I want to have more opportunities, of course, but I would like to start my own business and just try to do something new and to be helping also the other guys to be like me.
That's awesome. I'm going to talk for a minute. Can I talk for a minute? Can I ask a question now?
but you have to ask Ishmael about his house and how he pays his
Well,
mortgage.
Well, I mean, the powerful story. And I mean, you were on like anybody been on 60 Minutes before? I think Ismael was about, we have some more people who've been on 60 Minutes. I mean, told an amazing story. That was like a year or two ago, and you're just keeping going. You had businesses already, and now you're thinking about new businesses, so cheers to that. No, I have one very simple question. I'll turn it back to you, which is duck dive the secret word to be able to tell if somebody knows how to surf and is able to go in the ocean? Because last year, I'm in El Zonte, and I'm putting a surfboard on, and the surf instructor comes on. My Spanish is horrible, and he didn't speak much English, but he was like, do you know how to duck dive? And I said, I know how to duck dive. And he said, okay. And so, I think he was warning me. I don't know if that's your secret word, but that probably saves a few lives as well, just checking in with people heading out. So, I mean, the lifeguard story is one of many amazing stories that you guys have done.
Yeah. Probably, who is here for the first time in El Salvador? Okay. Welcome. How many of you decide to stay already? Good. Probably when everyone come to El Salvador, the first question that have is like, how Bitcoin is helping the Salvadorian people, right? That came in mind for the first time, like, why? Why El Salvador decide to adopt in Bitcoin as a legal tender? Because literally, like a lot of people that come and say, I don't understand Bitcoin, I don't understand why, and I don't imagine like a poor people, because people used to think that El Salvador is poor, but it's not true. El Salvador is a rich country that have a lot of resources, right? A lot of resources that you use in your countries that we produce here, But creating a social project, creating a Bitcoin circle economy is a big responsibility, because it's not just about Bitcoin. And when I say it's not just about Bitcoin, is you need to provide other tools that together with Bitcoin people will use to change their life, When I was a kid, we are two different generations, right? And when I was a kid, I didn't have these opportunities that these guys have now. He have a house now in El Zonte with 21 years old. And a lot of you have been coming to me and say, I want to buy a house in El Zonte too, So That's amazing, And one of the things that the whole project started as a dream that everyone was dreaming to leave the country, to live to the USA, to live to Canada, to live to Europe, to looking for better opportunities because our community, our country was not providing those opportunities. That hope that we can believe that we can make it here. And seeing Ismael here, speaking better English than me, having a home with 20 years old, Ismael have been one of the person that have been educating more people about Bitcoin here in El Salvador in the beginning, and saying and telling him like the real like someone like him. A lot of Salvadorian people here, they got the visa, the US visa, they get to the USA and they never come back, and that is a real history that happened in El Salvador before, and many times, So seeing him being in the USA and decide to come back because he's seeing more future here, I can tell you, it's working. Bitcoin is working. The country is moving in the direction that we feel proud, and El Salvador is providing the tools, the hope, the freedom that we need to dream here. And I think this is just the beginning. And like him, he's one example, but we have another examples like different leaders in our community. Brian is another guy that he's at the Bitcoin Beach booth. Recently, he applied for a new program that the USA have to go and work in there. And they call him and they say, well, you have a job if you want to go, and you have the visa to go and work in there too. And he came to us and say, I don't want to leave. But back in the years, that will be to win the lottery, like to be able to go to the USA legal, And I know there are still a lot of challenge. There is a lot of problems still, but I think we're moving in the right direction, and this is exciting.
It's amazing. Ismael, like Mike said, you're a 21-year-old homeowner. I think this was part of a really important project for El Zonte and a showcase of what you can do, bringing Bitcoin as a tool with other tools. Can you tell the audience just a little bit about that? How did you end up as a homeowner at 21?
Well, there are a lot of things I can tell you guys. We have not enough time, and if I can say something is, as I told you before, these things is just crazy to see how things are moving forward, and it's going fast. And before, we never thought we were going to change. Our parents, my parents, they are from here, of course, and they've never been in a bank system. So now that Bitcoin allows everybody to have a cell phone and have internet and do a payment, and I teach them how to pay like our bills, and they don't have to go to La Libertad like to spend 1 hour on the bus, and then they have to maybe miss working and do a line to do that. And maybe if that works, right? Sometimes that doesn't work. So we have a lot of tools right now that we can use, and there are many people who think, oh, I can lose my money when I invest in Bitcoin. Well, that's something like kind of it's kind of long to explain, but what we can also tell them is you don't need to have Bitcoin to use it, right? You only need to use the technology to do payments to do your life easier.
I wish last night I was at a place up the street, a restaurant, and there were 4 guys, maybe about your age, and they said, the income is not enough here. We don't get enough money to do what we're saying, and they're talking about all these issues, and I was saying exactly that. They said, we missed Bitcoin. And I said, and I wish you were there, man, because they would have all been Bitcoiners instant. We only have a few minutes left. I want to shift to the future, maybe starting actually from what...
Yeah, I just want to add something really quickly. Like a lot of people here, living here or coming here, you will hear that they complain that that some of the people say the Bitcoin adoption is moving slow, the Bitcoin is not working, and Bitcoin Beach is working, but they didn't know where we were just almost 4 years ago, to where we are. Quentin is here. He was working in La Pirraya. He was building, well, it is a Bitcoin circular economy now in La Pirraya, Bitcoin Island. You should go and check. There are the guys from Berlin who complain that the beach is too hot. Now we have Bitcoin Berlin, But, I think the humans want everything happening so quickly. But things doesn't work like this, because I hear this even from Bitcoiners, complaining about it. And I say, come on, guys, we're in Bitcoin country. Like, you're living here, you're living in the Bitcoin standard. Things are not going to change from today to tomorrow. This is a learning process. El Salvador is building, learning, and moving forward, and that's why I want to tell you, go and explore it. Talk with the Salvadorian people. Don't hear just someone complaining here about the things that are not working, because he's just here for 2 years. But he doesn't see from where we come from, and that's the reality that our country is living now.
So you're not only continuing locally to support this project, but you're also, the other fork is, a year ago you launched, or I think it was about a year ago, the Bitcoin Beach white paper, which kind of showed people a blueprint of sorts to follow in the footsteps. I know Fernando and many communities around the world have picked that up, and it kind of changed the way they were thinking. They, like, maybe from the surface they say, oh, I'm going to walk into a few merchants, and I'm going to get as many merchants as I can to convince them, whether I twist their arm or not, to accept Bitcoin. But it's more than that, right? From what I'm seeing, the successful circular economies are more well-rounded with community integration, et cetera. So maybe starting with the white paper, what are you guys doing? Sort of, it's kind of, I renamed this panel from Bitcoin Beach to the world, because I see you guys really connecting with every community around the world. So what is the plan for the future, sort of in terms of that project and helping people outside?
So after the law was passed in El Salvador and it became kind of a news sensation, we got bombarded with people saying, hey, I want to do this in our country. Can you come here and do this? And we said, no, you can do it. Like, this has to be a decentralized effort. Every community is going to need it, different things as part of that program. There's basic things. It needs to be Bitcoin only. You need to be rooted in the community, and you need to have a long-term goal of seeing the people's lives improved, not just trying to convince everybody to take Bitcoin and moving on. And so we kind of set out in the white paper of these are the basic tenets, but what it really requires is people living that out and being committed to those communities. And it's been amazing to see how that's happened. It has really nothing to do with us. We're just along for the ride, giving advice when we can, having the privilege of going and visiting a lot of these amazing communities around the world and seeing the way that they're transforming lives in ways we would never have dreamed of. And so that's why I always tell people, don't try to replicate what we're doing. Probably what your ideas are going to be much better for the community. And so that's what we're seeing now, and it's happening in such an organic way, and that's why I think it's such an exciting story for people to follow.
Yeah, and I think the Bitcoin is hope for everyone. When you hear that, is the truth, because the same problems that we're facing here and that Bitcoin is fixing here are the same problems in Brazil, Peru, Africa, Guatemala, Costa Rica, same problems, And I think people are not excited to replicating or copying us. They're excited to see how they can use Bitcoin in the same ways that we're using here to solving the same problems, because I think we all are humans and we all want just a better life, and Bitcoin is, I think the world is crazy now, and Bitcoin is the only thing that looks hope and fairness, bringing fairness into these crazy worlds that we're living now.
Yeah, amen. I mean, to see the community, like, it's very open source and Bitcoin in nature, taking what you all have done and then adding back. So the Bitcoin Lake, which is presenting later today, saying, okay, here's something that we did that's a little bit different. Or my favorite example, Fruit for 10 sats, have a POS system with NFC and give a school full of kids Bolt cards that can pay Lightning. You've said things similar over the years. You've got like 8-year-old kids who use Lightning more often than some of the like Bitcoin devs, right? and so I think it's just an amazing thing to see. So follow along all the Bitcoin projects for sure. We're going to run out of time soon. I want to give you guys an opportunity to say a few last words, so each of you can,
Something that we're gonna release next year is a fellowship for all the people that want to start a Bitcoin circular economy. If our work and our work collective with all the projects here can help other Bitcoin circular economies around the world to make their startup easier, that's something that we're putting energy and is coming soon. So if you want to start a Bitcoin circular economy or you want to start a Bitcoin meetup in your town, you're the change that you want to see. So start it now, don't wait.
Well, if I can say something to you guys, is that the same way this guy or we have done our job, it's also your responsibility to, now that you're here and we know you're here because you want to improve our country, you want to help for some reason, right? So you have the responsibility to talk to those guys who think Bitcoin is not good.
Amen. Mike, some final words.
We're just looking forward to seeing you all in Zonte tomorrow.
Welcome.
All right.